It's a vital game in both the title and top six race in the Ninja A-League tonight as the Central Coast Mariners host the Wellington Phoenix. And the header is there for Hamilton! It's Izzy Gomez! It's a season-shaping result.
Stevenson! That's what they've got in the locker. Then Raw put the seal on it. Tamika Yellen! Yes, they can!
Feeding it through, Brown. Chance on goal and she finds the net. And Josie Allen finishing it off. In a game where the 3 points were the most important thing, Newcastle Jets have got the job done.
Tanner, is it going to be a repeat? It is! And it's giving season from the victory. And it's going to have a big say on the Ninja A-League finals race.
It is a smash and grab for Western Sydney. Wellington Phoenix stumble in their premiership hunt.
Levin, and James saves again. And now Stanic Floody, the long shot's on. Stanic Floody parried. It's a stalemate in Gosford. In all likelihood, we are down to 7.
It was a weekend of upsets in the Ninja A-League penultimate round. Welcome back to Dub Zone. We're back in Sydney and joined by A-League's commentator, Teo Pellizzeri. How are you, Teo?
Great to see you, Nalin.
Good to see you too. And Grace Gill, you're back on the panel.
Great to be here, Nalin.
Amazing to have you here. Now, geez, it was drama, chaos as usual, but it sets up a massive final round in the regular season.
And this is what we want as well, coming into the final round. We always wonder when we get to this point in the season, how is it April? How did we get here? How are we up to the final round? But there's so much riding on these final games. I'm so looking forward to it.
Oh, we can't wait to get into it. But before we chat about all things Ninja A-League, let's talk moment of the round. You kick us off.
Well, really hard for me to go past, albeit from a losing team. Claudia Jenkins, who I thought was exceptional for Adelaide at the weekend, had this really big moment. And the team ultimately went on to lose by a couple of goals. But had it not been for the heroics of Jenkins and this triple save, it's like each one just got better and better and better as it went on. She had a really immense performance.
And Teo?
Mine comes from a team that had not one but 2 losses at the weekend, but to give them a ray of hope, the Wellington Phoenix may have had a really challenging time, but Macey Fraser produced one of the goals of the season. I know a direct free kick from Alana Janchevsky won goal of the season last season. Well, this just as good, and Macey Fraser, only up to 3 appearances. We know she's taken a long personal leave in order to re-find her love of football and reconnect, and hopefully that sort of quality is evidence that she's ready to come back and show us what she's got.
Oh, she is back. That went viral on socials as well, no surprise. Now, my moment was during that big blue win. Riley Tanner, just before we were about to do our pre-match interview, it was Heather Hintz who creeped up behind her and drenched her in water. It was the best surprise and really just summed up how Sydney were feeling. I don't think many people expected for them to pick up that win, but hey, they were momentarily off the bottom of the table. Let's see if they can get the job done this weekend. But let's now kick into the big news that unfolded, which was that Melbourne City have sealed their 3rd straight Premier's plate. Now, it was the bye week for them, but they actually found out in the middle of their Champions League game against Uzbekistan side in PFC Nasaf. But Grace, it was a bit tougher for them this season. Wasn't exactly the invincible run, but they got it done.
Yeah, they did, and I think that speaks to the strengths of a team that has great squad depth. They've got great consistency. To go 3 back-to-back-to-back has never been done before in the A-League, so I think that's particularly impressive. Michael Matritrani, for him to come 2 back-to-back as a coach is exceptional. So they're a strong team. They're always going to be there or thereabouts.
And it was 20 games, no unite round, no compromises in the fixture. You know, previously we've seen teams with an imbalance where you don't play everyone twice, or unite round maybe takes a home game away from people or puts 2 teams on a neutral field. This is as pure a home and away win as it gets, and the City have shown they can win all different ways. And having the deepest squad, being able to replenish after losing Mariana Speckmeyer and Lourdes Bosch shows their scouting network, and they have ended up in a position where they might win the league quite convincingly, especially if results go their way in the final round.
Well, let's now hear from the head coach in Michael Matritrani. He spoke after the Champions League win.
A lot of emotions the last couple of hours. Just really pleased for the whole group, the club in general. They put a lot of resources and time into the women's program, and it's paying off. And then on another point that we had to try and keep a hold of is obviously during the game, we heard the news that Phoenix had dropped points, which means we're the premiers as well. So it's another 3 years in a row to come top is a great honour. So a lot of emotions and a lot to celebrate.
Very solid achievement for Melbourne City. They're a decorated side, Teo, but in the last 3 years when they've won it, the championship has evaded them. Is this the year you feel like they can get their hands on it?
Well, advancing in the Champions League means that if they do play the grand final, it'll be off to South Korea to play in a Champions League semi-final by the Wednesday of midweek. So the fixture pile-up again means that I suspect in the back of their minds, you know, they lost the Champions League on penalties last season. They had a kick to win it and Rebecca Stott had it saved. They couldn't have got much closer. They've got unfinished business on a number of fronts and they will back themselves to play their best 11 all the way through. Let's go to the game itself, Grace. We saw most of this NASAF team for Uzbekistan at the Women's Asian Cup and we know that they're a very capable defensive outfit, but what really was refreshing here is the fact they came back. They found an equaliser and they really made Melbourne City earn it.
Yeah, they did, and right down to the wire as well. And it was an impressive finish at the end by Uchendo just to get it late in the game. But this is the strength of City. They're not a team that look particularly panicked when their backs are against the wall. They go all the way through and they set themselves up for what is a really big couple of months because A-League and now this in the mix as well. There's a couple of cherries dangling right in front of them.
They'll play Tokyo Verdy Beleza in the semi-finals. But Uchendo owed them, Grace. I mean, her red card against Wanderers, which was discussed on previous episodes of Dub Zone, it came back with a suspension that knocks her out for the rest of the A-League season. So Champions League is her outlet to make amends and to express herself.
And in terms of that player management and the load management, well, there's one forced through Uchendo there who will be fresh, ready to go.
Absolutely. They're on for the treble, but that was all made possible because it was the Wanderers who picked up an upset win against Wellington Phoenix. Don't think many people saw it coming. And Grace, Wanderers obviously don't have much to play for. Their season is over, but geez, what a way to end it on a bang.
Well, what they can play for has been the disruptors, and they were in this case. And sometimes when pressure is off a team, they come up in these big moments. This was a really cagey match. It wasn't the best quality by either side, and just this almost lucky moment at the end. And to her credit, Yuan Kwong did very well to make the most of the opportunity, fresh off the Asian Cup herself too. So big result for Western Sydney Wanderers. They don't want to be wooden spoons back-to-back for 2 years in a row.
They had to, because Sydney had won the day before.
That's
so
right.
Their only option was to come out and win, and they did it. Yes, it's an upset, but I think some of the chances Wellington missed early in the game gave Wanderers a foothold, and the longer it stayed 0-0, the more they built in confidence, and then, as you say, they had the freedom to venture forward and go forward at the end. And a very young Wanderers team, hit by injury and squad turnover during the course of the season, that's something they can really pin their colours to at the end of the campaign. They got the bye in the last round, so it's a good way for them to sign off.
And it is City who are going to play Newcastle Jets next. Now, they got the job done. It was a 3-1 win against Adelaide United, but Teo, not quite enough to make it into finals, unfortunately.
Yes, they needed about 7 or 8 specific results to go their way. And to be fair, winning this game was one of them, and the most important one that was within their control. Adelaide, we know, had the Tarantos away at a wedding. They had Erin Healy out with a cork. They had Alona Meleg away on young Matilda's duty, although Claudia Jenkins couldn't have done much more in goal as her replacement in this particular game. And I think the Jets, you know, again, another team playing with the freedom, knowing they needed a miracle, were able to throw caution to the wind in this match and they got rewards.
Yeah, and they had some really good moments. And I think when the Jets are at their very best, that would have been the frustration for the team, knowing, well, actually, this is how we can play. This is how we can finish when we've got our strikers looking comfortable and confident in front of goal and making the most of their opportunities. So it'll feel like a bit of a disappointing end to their season, hopes of what could have been.
Yeah, totally. And for Brisbane, I mean, they've been impressive given the injuries that they were hit with this season. And it does mean that their 5-2 win against Perth Glory, finals destiny is in their own hands, which is a massive boost for Alex Smith.
It needs to be for Brisbane Roar. And we saw last season they just faded away and they didn't quite have the depth to really push themselves forward as the season went on, tailed away at the end. And there was a real hint that this could happen again with this Brisbane team this season. They've been struck by a lot of injuries themselves. We know that Yallop was out for a long period of time, Sian Fryer too, Zara Kruger, Isabella Hoyos, who haven't seen this entire year. So other players, Momo Hayashi has had to step up in really big moments. It was a dominant performance, Teo, from Brisbane.
And Teo, in terms of Perth, mathematically, if you want to get into the specifics, they're not quite out of finals, but geez, they're going to need a near miracle to get in.
I mean, they would have to win, quasi-realistically, about 7-0 against Victory, and then Sydney would have to beat the Mariners 4-0. They need an 11-goal swing, so plus favourable results in other games. So very unlikely. And I really feel for Dale Schroeder, who's come in as an injury replacement, signed during the week, flies to Brisbane, and then Teresa Morrissey's injured in the warm-up. And Dale, in you go, and unfortunately a really tough initiation to A-League women's football, but hopefully not the last time we see her in a Ninja A-League game. As you know, the life of a goalkeeper, you can spend years and years waiting for your debut as a second choice or a third choice keeper, or the circumstances can throw you in at a moment's notice. And I do feel as though Brisbane Roar were able to capitalise on that, and Perth have been left with mission impossible as a result.
Also, massive shout out to Mika Yallop, who got back into the squad. I mean, she was with us during the Asian Cup. So good to see her firing again for Brisbane. They absolutely need her in this part where, you know, finals is on the horizon for them. But we also saw the return of Matilda's goalkeeper in Chloe Lincoln. She was back between the sticks, and we caught up with her a little earlier to hear about her Asian Cup experience.
Benny, the Matilda's manager, actually called me and sort of just said, do you want to go to an Asian Cup? And I didn't really know what to say, really. I was a bit in shock, and I was like, really? I was very much expecting to play more of a supporting role on the bench and helping Macca and Jada, and it all really happened in the space of the day before the game, walking out and singing the national anthem and everything like that. It was like an out-of-body experience. I was very lucky. Macca, even Sam, spoke to me as well and just sort of said, you know, you'll be okay, you've done this before, just ease yourself into the game, it's just another game. It was all very simple messaging, but I think knowing that it came from those girls made it very comforting. I was very lucky that I had a good team in front of me, in the sense that I really didn't have much to do both those games.
Direct again, straight to Lincoln.
And being in that environment for such a long period over a tournament, you get to pick up so much. The standard that they hold themselves to, and then the professionalism off the field too, make sure they've done everything they can in terms of recovery and nutrition and all those things that are one percenters, but they add up over time. And as much as I possibly can, I'm trying to bring that into the Brisbane environment, just to try and keep myself hopefully ready if there was another opportunity to go into camp, and also to try and help lift the standard of the team as well and the girls around me and help make us better. Getting the opportunity to try and save shots from Mary Fowler, Sam Kerr, Caitlin Ford, you have to be so much better to try and make saves against them. Mary especially, she can strike a ball, oh my gosh, very, very well. She's got probably one of the firmest shots I've ever faced, yeah. I think once you get a sort of taste of it, it's just, I haven't stopped thinking about it since I got back, to be honest, about how much I love the experience and how much I just want to be a part of it again. So, yeah, it was definitely a pinch me moment for sure, and very, very grateful for the opportunity. Now looking back on it, it was an incredible experience.
Awesome to hear from Chloe Lincoln there. Such an incredible moment for her. And I remember all three of us, match day -1, it was before the Matildas took on the Philippines. They started falling like dominoes in terms of the goalkeepers, and we were like, hang on a second, Chloe Lincoln could potentially make her debut in a major tournament, and it was invaluable for her. I mean, albeit not tested, but still.
A huge experience for Chloe Lincoln. She's just the nicest person in the world, isn't she? But of course, we learnt about Tegan Micah withdrawing from the squad with concussion. That was the first big news that came out of this situation. Chloe Lincoln gets brought in, and all of a sudden there's this injury cloud over Mackenzie Arnold. So propelled is Chloe Lincoln, and what an experience, because even though she wasn't tested hugely in those moments, it's just having the organisation of an experienced team in front of her, learning to speak up, to use her voice. And as she said, she'll bring that back into the A-League, which is so crucial.
Absolutely. And even speaking to her the day after the final, she spoke about how Mackenzie Arnold really helped her as well. Yeah. Words of advice. So it will go a long way. Now, on the Matildas, they're about to kick off their international series this month as well in April, and they'll be taking on Malawi and either India or Kenya, depending on results. The squad hasn't come out yet Teo, but given just how well we've seen, Ninja A-League players progress into the senior team, do you think we could see potentially any surprise packages?
Not massive surprises. I actually think a lot of people are going to see this Matildas squad and wonder why it hasn't been rotated more. I suppose it is the FIFA series and they are expecting a certain level of familiarity with the Matildas team. Obviously, we took 26 to the Women's Asian Cup. We'll take fewer to this particular tournament. I would think, though, in terms of just a few Ninja A-League players, Izzy Gomez is a must. At this point, she is someone who continues to play at an outstanding level. And there's been a lot of chat from Joe Montemurro in particular about the football he wants to play and the players that allow him to play it. So I would have thought with Indy Dos Santos out injured, Daniela Garlich maybe out of favour, maybe someone like Letitia McKenna from a Ninja A-League point of view sneaks in. Grace, I would love to see Danny Garlich in there, but I get a feeling that Joe might look towards the Ninja A-League just to offer a few more carrots to players that have big finals campaigns to look forward to.
I think so. I think it's a really good shout. And I do think we'll see a couple of the senior players rested, whether it be through a lot of football, a lot of travel. I imagine we will see a couple of the Ninja A-League girls thrown into the mix. And Izzy Gomez is a great shout. She's been in the environment before and maybe had a little bit of a way to go in terms of getting up to the level. But from what I've seen of her in recent weeks for the Central Coast Mariners, her impact every single game, she is a game changer. And getting her up to the speed of the environment of national team football is a really exciting prospect.
Now, just on the Matildas, during the Asian Cup, Joe Montemurro did often speak about how his side perhaps were struggling to control matches, even in the midfield battle, sometimes it was a struggle. What do you think is the biggest learning from the tournament and that you want to see sort of implemented within this team in terms of system, but also some of the personnel you mentioned? What changes needs to happen?
Well, in terms of what we learnt, I think we learnt that from a defensive standpoint, we've got options, and that wasn't the case in previous major tournaments where we've got multiple centre-back options. So that's a real luxury. We move a little further up the field, and I'll come back to your question on midfield in a moment. Up front, we still have a plethora of really good options. We've got Mary Fowler, Sam Kerr, however you want to face it. Sam Kerr playing a slightly more mature role back to goal, and that's developed in her game in a long way. The midfield then becomes this question, and I think that's why your points there, Teo, are really pertinent around a player like an Izzy Gomez coming in there. Em van Egmond becomes the most capped player for the Matildas. How much does she go on? Does she go on to the World Cup? What does her future look like? Katrina Gorry was immense again in the middle of the park. Claire Wheeler, in and out, played a lot of minutes. As for what the changing of the guard looks like, is that a player like an Izzy Gomez?
Well, I also wonder, we've seen players like, Chloe Lagazzo, Berry Hill, Emily Gielnick, even Kaya Simon say, my dream of the Matildas is not over. Tamika Yallop now, through injury, has somewhat fallen into that category. If Tamika Yallop is not in the FIFA Series squad, then what does she need to do during A-League finals in order to put her name back in contention, assuming Brisbane qualify? And I don't think there needs to be mass generational change. There I think needs to be just a bit more fresh ideas and fresh faces to renew a level of competition within camp. The Matildas love to say that no one's place is guaranteed and they have competition amongst all 23 or 26 players, but when it comes to the team sheet and selection, we just know that's not true. So mix it up a bit, enough that we're not saying, new blood, totally new faces, young players, baby out with the bathwater. We're just saying enough to make it a little bit different and show us something new.
And what do you think about the opposition potentially Matildas will be facing? Do you see any kind of ones that you circle that could be challenging, either India, Kenya and Malawi as well?
In a word, no. I would love FIFA to have put maybe a Morocco or a South Africa in this group, just so we even have like a vaguely tougher game. If the Matildas make hard work of these, fair enough. Kenya away, just the logistics, the circumstances, the state of the world and the state of travel, that is its own challenge. I would hope almost that football is the place to have a bit of freedom and express yourself, regardless of how difficult it is, either flying to Nairobi or how difficult things are once you're there.
Yeah, I think as well the diversity of opposition is really important for a national team experience. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Matildas face up against those teams.
Well, we'll definitely keep our eye out. Cup. But as for our young Matildas, their Asian Cup campaign kicks off this week on Thursday. They're taking on Chinese Taipei, and Teo Pellizzeri will also be calling all the action. You can stream it free on 10. But curious to get your thoughts, Grace. There's a lot of Ninja A-League youngsters in the squad. Who are the main ones to look out for?
Well, all but 2 feature in the Ninja A-League, and I think it's a real privilege that we get to watch these players every single week. A player that I've always rated and I'm really keen to see again at national team level is Alexia Postolakis. She hasn't played as much this year with Melbourne City. She's always one in my mind. Talia Younis comes off the back of an excellent season with Western Sydney Wanderers. We know what Shelby McMahon can do. But I'm also really curious to see the likes of Daisy Brown, who in my eyes has had a real breakout season this year, Teo, with Brisbane Roar. So again, national team experience, really important for these young players.
And it's a very attack-skewed team. We're going to see players playing in positions for the young Matildas that they don't for their Ninja A-League clubs because, I mean, unfortunately, Isabella Hoyos didn't make it due to injury. Ruby Cuthbert, not enough games under her belt and in her legs. And that could easily be a Matildas centre-back pairing 10 years' time. But right now, for the needs of this tournament, neither of them are really physically ready. So great prospects, just not ready for Thailand this month. What I'm looking forward to are the players that look very different when they play for the national team compared to their clubs. Zara Kruger's a great example. Has been amazing pretty much every time she plays for a youth national team for Australia, even if she is a little bit of an unsung hero and goes about her business a bit more quietly, whether it was Sydney FC or the Brisbane Roar. And I feel like Amelia Casa could be a player that under a different coach, maybe deployed in a different role and maybe playing against players her age rather than against adults. I want to see what she can do, potentially, as a really creative force in this young Matildas team.
Let's see what they can muster up. One thing's for sure, the future is very bright as well with these youngsters getting some minutes. Now, before we look ahead to the important fixtures coming up in the Ninja A-League, let's see where your team is currently sitting on the ladder. So it is Melbourne City who've locked up top spot, but the battle is on for top 6, Teo, and you and I were kind of going through and calculating the permutations of who gets in, what needs to happen. So talk us through it.
Yeah, I sent everyone that's commentating or analysing games the ladder predictor because I want you guys to spend as much time in it as I am. I think that battle for second, I know that first you get a trophy, but the difference between second and third is monumental as well. And that 3-team battle between Adelaide, Wellington and Canberra for second, really could. That extra week off, you don't have the tension of straight into an elimination final. You know you're guaranteed 2 legs, one of them at home. It is a huge gulf, the gap between second and third, and that's why it is so hotly contested as well.
Well, that battle for second is going to be on show when Adelaide United host Wellington Phoenix. And Grace, the Knicks, they've been doing great this season, but they are coming off 2 losses. But they could potentially take some confidence off the back of their 3-1 win in this fixture last time out.
Yeah, and I think they'll have to. I think it was a difficult last couple of games for Wellington, but they've had an exceptional year, and that can't be taken away from them. So coming into Adelaide, their final game of the season, Adelaide obviously have a lot on the line for them as well. But for Wellington, how they make the most of their moments, because they create plenty. Where they went wrong against Western Sydney Wanderers was not capitalising on their opportunities in the final third. So that will be huge in this fixture on Friday night.
Wellington are in a slump that they haven't dug themselves out of, whereas I think Adelaide under Theo Pellizzeri and the coaching staff have shown that they can have a bad game, a down performance, and bounce back, and they exactly had that against Newcastle. But they seem like a group who are on a very even keel over the course of the season. So home ground advantage, back at Coopers in a double header, and I would hope the fans really get in and make this their best crowd of the home and away season in order to cheer them on, because even if they win, Canberra can still leapfrog them potentially later in the weekend. So they need to put their best foot forward at home.
Well, one person who'll be hoping the Knicks are absolutely on song this time around is their head coach, Bev Priestman. She had some stern words for her players on the field post-match, so let's listen in.
And by the way, I'm not directing everyone, but people are on their own game. Yeah? Next game, guys, it's over to you. It's over to you to show, but I can't do any more. I honestly can't. Yeah?
That is tough honesty there, Grace. It feels like she's essentially saying it's your responsibility now. There's not much I can do at this point. Is it warranted?
Well, in that clip, I see a coach that really deeply cares about the team. And we've got to remember as well that Bev Priestman has made history for this club like no other coach at Wellington ever has before. They've made the finals for the first ever time. Their first couple of seasons in the competition, they were the wooden spoon. They haven't made finals since. And I think from a player's point of view, we need to remember that in that position, in that role, Bev's probably saying the words that a lot of the players are thinking because they would have known that it's their responsibility to make the most of their moment. She's just put in voice to that. And I think we've got to also take into account characters and players in that team. Earlier in the season, of course, CJ Bott, with her pregnancy, is unavailable. She's the kind of player who would be saying those words. Bev stepping in and playing this role, I think it's absolutely warranted, and I think any coach in that situation needs and wants to see a reaction from their squad.
And I know that coaches love to say we focus on us and focus on our game, but make no mistake, Bev Priestman will have a plan for Erin Healy, whether it's handing off or one specific player man-marking her. They will be ready for the attacking threats of Adelaide. She'll arm them with a good game plan, and I do think it's up to the players to execute.
Let's see how they go there. Now, over to the nation's capital. It is Canberra United who will host Brisbane Roar, who are looking to make it into the finals for the first time since 2021. For Canberra, they're coming off that scoreless draw. So let's hear from Emma Robers after that one.
Yeah, it's huge. Another big contest. Obviously, a lot on the line for them, but for us as well, we want to go into finals with a win on the back and have that momentum going into finals. So, yeah, we're definitely going out there to win. There's no other option, and yeah, fully welcome the challenge. Yeah, and can't wait to do that in front of home fans.
Well, you're told about that Wanderers result and that second spot was up for grabs, or did you play unaware of the circumstances elsewhere?
That's news to me already, so that's great to hear, actually. No, it's very exciting, and I think this whole season the league's been so close, but I mean that's what makes it so exciting. We've got quality across the park, and yeah, I mean that just keeps it more interesting, so all the more to fight for.
Grace, your former team, Canberra United, they've been a bit up and down this season. You can see there is clearly a positive energy within the club. What have you made of their form?
Well, I think that's exactly that summary. It's up and down, it's inconsistent. Anthony Jagaranek has a team that he's found ways to win, and I absolutely credit the approach he's taken. He's got really athletic, fit players, and they're finding goals when they need to. Yeah, a really tough, cagey one against the Mariners at the weekend, but the fact that they're back in finals contention, again, there's context around the team, around the club, and I really have to take my hat up to what they're doing. Up against Brisbane, that is an iconic fixture when it comes to A-League folklore fixturing. Canberra United against Brisbane Roar. Long live in the memories of both Canberra United and Brisbane Roar players. It's going to be a massive final game at McKellar Park.
And I think from an X's and O's point of view, it was very interesting that Nanako Sasaki was basically Izzy Gomez's shadow in that 0-0 draw and did her level best to nullify the effect of Izzy Gomez. So we're watching some of the highlights. Now, both goalkeepers were outstanding. Annalie Grove, second clean sheet in 3 games, and Sally James back at her best for Canberra. But I think in terms of, Grace, you called the game when Brisbane beat Canberra up at Spencer Park. Bente Janssen was crucial in that game. I feel like they've prepared Nano Sasaki to shadow Bente Janssen in a similar way to how she followed Izzy Gomez in this game. And while Canberra's attackers didn't have their best day out, Heyman still had a shot on target. Stanich Floody still had chances. It was a quieter day for Emma Hawkins, but they have the range of attackers to go and get themselves a home win. And again, home fans will be crucial getting out at McKellar to try and tip the balance ever so slightly.
McKellar's tricky to go to, man, and it's really tough for opposition teams to visit. But you're right, it's a really good point, Teo, that sometimes a tag or a shadow is deployed when you've got a player like Bente Janssen who has driven so much of Brisbane Roar's success. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar tactic.
Speaking about Bente Janssen, before I forget to mention, the Golden Boot race will also be decided. Holly McNamara leading the charge, Rasmussen no longer in the league, but Bente Janssen, Kennedy White both on 8 goals, so we'll see how that one pans out as well. But now on to the Mariners. In Gosford, it'll be a double-header with the Isuzu A-League fixture as well. They're taking on Sydney FC. Now, Teo, the Mariners, they're going to be without Izzy Gomez. They're already a bit bare bones without 3 of their players off for young Matilda's duties. How much of a blow is this?
Well, it's massive because the Mariners have drawn 2 of their last 3 0-all. They went to Perth, they got a scoreless draw there. Then they beat Wellington midweek. They made 4 changes, and interestingly, Corey Babington has entrusted certain players to play full 90s, have a total game off, and then come back and play full 90s. So this is the incident where Izzy Gomez picked up her 8th yellow card of the season, got herself suspended. There was a long long debate about whether or not that should have been a red on Bethany Gordon as well. But ultimately, both players received a yellow card for their involvement in what was quite a prolonged argument after that incident. So no Izzy Gomez, and let's not forget, Sydney FC did beat Central Coast 1-0 at Leichhardt Oval earlier in the season, and that was when the Mariners were at the height of their 4-game scoreless run. So no Trimis, no Prakash, no Gomez, but the Mariners, they say no worries. They always find a way to sprinkle. They always find a way to sprinkle. M. Husband must have left a big sack of the magic dust there for Corey Babington, and he reaches in and he keeps sprinkling it. And here's Eliza Familton popping up to score a goal for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Mariners can do it again.
Wouldn't be surprised if Sydney FC can pull off another big result, Grace, because it is very late in the season. But I remember chatting to the head coach in James Levesque, and he just said the girls want it. They're still fighting. They've still got that character in them. They're performing well in training, and really, they don't want to finish last. That would be their first ever wooden spoon.
And not dissimilar to that of Western Sydney Wanderers in it. The pressure is off them. So all they're having at the moment is playing with freedom, playing with pride. And if you're a team coming up against a Central Coast Mariners that doesn't have an Izzy Gomez, you know that you're not getting that really, really physical midfield battle. Avani Prakash as well, who's been their creator and pulling the strings. And of course, Peter Trimis, who's scored some absolute worldies this season as well. I think Sydney are looking at this, rubbing their hands together, going, we need to finish our season on a high.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a late upset for the Sky Blues against the Mariners, but how they got those 2 goals, how that Riley Tanner scored, was partly because of 2 unfortunate moments with the Victory captain in Caleb Morrison. Jeff Hopkins was not happy. There are a few unforced errors, and Teo, they've only missed finals twice, I believe, under Jeff Hopkins. Do they have it in them now to push to the finals and put this result behind them?
Well, the earliness with which Melbourne Victory started making attacking subs and going for it, I think, to me, says that they're really worried about this trip to Perth. Even a draw could have tipped, the scales ever so slightly more in Victory's favour, in that they could have gone west and got a draw away to Perth rather than having to now win their way in. And they'll be sweating on Teresa Morrissey, who's going to start in goal for the Glory. Victory did win 1-0 away to Perth last season, but you might recall it was in the very last minute, Alana Murphy with a long shot. She's no longer, of course, with the Victory. So, Grace, this season where Victory have been begging for us to write them off and say they can't do it, they're not going to make it anymore. Well, Victory, you're going to get what you want. You're not going to get the win in Perth. I'm writing you off. You're going to miss the finals.
Oh, big call. I mean, it's been a really tough season for Victory, and those errors, the mistakes across the game, really uncharacteristic. It was a game that was built on errors and gifts of goals from the opposition. For Victory, and I think we saw in the finish from Rachel Lowe, there was so much feeling behind that strike. That wasn't just, I've scored a goal for my team. There was feeling behind what it meant for the team, about keeping their finals hopes alive, about now looking at other results to rely on them. To have to travel to Perth for your final game of the season when you have everything to play for, all the pressure is on this Victory side, who are historically immense, Jeff Hopkins as well. It's going to be a huge test.
It's going to be funny. If they do go through to finals, watch them win it as well. That will be classic Melbourne Victory.
Style.
Yeah, 100%. That's a sign of true champions, actually.
Right.
Teo, I hope the players saw your little
They'll be
out
watching. They'll be watching.
I regret nothing.
Alrighty, well, let's now have a look at the fixtures that we ran through. So here's all you can look forward to this weekend. Starting off on Friday night, Cooper Stadium. It's always going to be a fun one. And again, that race for the top 2 spot, Wellington Phoenix and Canberra United will want to seal it. And then the top 6 really is anyone's go, with the Mariners in for a shout. But if Victory win, that would really apply the pressure on Corey Babington's side to pick up all 3 points.
On a more serious note, if Victory don't get the result, then it's Brisbane's in the finals, essentially, when they kick off, and that could be really advantageous for Canberra to have a Brisbane side with, essentially deciding if they finish 5th or 6th, rather than playing to jump from 7th back into the finals. And as we know, Canberra, they go last in terms of trying to jump into 2nd and get that straight advantage through to a semi-final, rather than having to play in a one-off elimination final, which is where they got knocked out last season.
All right, well, I'm putting both of you on the spot now. Predictions, who is going to seal 2nd place?
Canberra for me.
Wellington for me.
Who misses out on finals?
It's going to be Victory. I think it'll be Victory
You made
in
that
7th.
clear.
Yep.
Yeah, look, looking at the ladder, looking at the points and all the pressure on Melbourne Victory, I think it's going to be the narrowest of losses.
Wow, there you go. Well, to be fair, I think Victory are going to
go and win the whole thing.
Go win the whole, yeah, exactly. Victory to win the grand final, as they often do. All eyes are going to be on that table as it continues to change over the weekend. But thank you to both of you. Grace, Teo, lovely having you here.
Nalin.
We cannot wait to see how the finals race pans out this weekend in the Ninja A-League. If you can't make it out to the grounds, you can always watch it live across Paramount Plus and Network 10. And we'll see you next week.